Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Spartan Heads. In this episode, we spend time with our Mid-Hoosier-Conference mates, the Hauser Jets, as we talk volleyball with Coach Jeff Case and softball with Coach Andy Brunner.
Coach Case is a 10-time sectional champion and leads one of the largest volleyball development groups in Southern Indiana, his Havoc program. It's a feeder system not only for Hauser, but surrounding counties including Shelby, Bartholomew, Decatur, and Ripley.
So thanks for joining us tonight. We've got Jeffrey Case, head volleyball coach of the Hauser Jets. Coach Case, thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, so Hauser Jets, just a remarkable program that's been built down there in volleyball dominance in the Mid-Hoosier-Conference. So, let's start this out by sharing with the fans at home a little bit about Jeff Case. Where'd you grow up? Where'd you go to high school? What do you do? And just let people get to know a little bit more about you before we really get into the volleyball side.
Sure. I live in Hartsville. Went to school at Hauser, graduated in '83. And I'm a custom machine fabricator, work at Capital Industries in Shelbyville. And I've been there 20 years. And really fortunate that they're very flexible with my hours to allow me to coach. Very fortunate with that.
Oh, that's great. So you're a lay coach, and you started in 2002 coaching for varsity, but I think a couple of years before you had some middle school volleyball experience coaching, right?
Yeah, I started in 2000. My daughter was in 8th grade, and they needed a coach. And so I started coaching then, and I never thought about coaching before that, and had no idea I'd still be doing it 20 years later.
But, great. So how did you, so it's difficult for some guys, but in the 80s, I guess you had the 1984 Olympic team with Coach Karai and all those guys on it. Where did your love of volleyball really start?
Just always loved it. Growing up as a kid, church picnics, we'd be playing volleyball. I just think it's a great sport that you can play at any level. Like at a church picnic, you can have 3 generations out there. You can play it as competitively as you want. And I started playing after I got out of high school, started playing club. They have club, for the juniors that we coach. Also, it goes up to the Golden Seniors. So I played, started playing club in the 80s and up to in the 2000s.
That's great. And then so you start coaching your daughter in 2000. What was the most difficult part about coaching your daughter?
She was a really good player because she was around it her whole life. All the kids have been. I guess just me getting on her, she didn't like that. There were sometimes we wouldn't talk after a game. But she was a great competitor, and every time I'd get on her, she would respond.
That's great. And so you coach a couple of years in middle school, and then in 2002, I think the varsity coach at the time leaves to go to North Decatur, I believe.
Yep.
You apply for the job. They give you the, really appreciate the application, but we're going to go in a different direction with a teacher.
Yes.
And then what happens?
I totally understood that. If they wanted to teach somebody who's going to be in the building, I could be behind that. So they hired a girl, and she was there through the summer, and she wanted me to help her out. So I was going to do that. So I'd already taken a vacation for that first week. We were going to have 2-a-days. Then 2 weeks before season started, she took a job somewhere else, and so they didn't have anybody, and it was just too late for them to find someone else. So I kind of fell into it. And actually had my first practice before the board approved me. So I'm very fortunate to get in, and actually had a parent tell me it was God's way of getting me in there.
Well, it's a really unique story because at the time the head coach leaves, you apply, and you're not recommended for the position because they want the teacher. And again, we understand the teacher's first rights, if you will. But almost in a Tom Brady-esque way, the coach leaves. Maybe the second choice takes the reins, and you've had a little bit of success, haven't you?
Yeah, I've done all right.
You've done all right. Approaching on 500 wins in his 18th season. So talk to me about those first couple of years of coaching at the varsity level. What are some of the things you learned as a very young coach that you'd want, if you were to look to the guy to your right, by the way, folks, he's sitting here with his son, Christian Case. What would you have wanted to know in 2002 that you certainly know now?
Well, I found out really quickly there's a big difference between playing and coaching. Definitely, and just the personalities of high school girls, get them all play together. So that was a challenge. So it's been continuous growth. It's really been a blessing. Can't imagine my life without all these awesome young ladies over the years, and still have close friendships and have contact with a lot of them.
That's great.
Yeah.
So you start in 2002, and then there's a thing that happens. Havoc happens in 2003. So talk to folks at home about what was the genesis behind starting a travel club down in Hauser.
Well, the 2 years prior, I coached with Skiba, Central Indiana Volleyball Club, Volleyball Association out of Columbus East. I coached with them, and then they folded and needed somewhere for my girls to go. I knew that if we were going to be successful, had to have somewhere for my girls to play. And so, I think it was 03, I started just one team, an 8th grade team. And Havoc stands for Hope Area Volleyball Club. So I needed something to start with. I wanted an H and a V in it, so I looked in the dictionary, found Havoc, and just made it work. And didn't do much that first year. Then the next year, Becky Baker Shane came on and ran administration for it. She really made it take off because she's so awesome at planning and getting all the legwork done. So she really made it take off.
Got it. And so you've been running Havoc ever since, and now you've got, I mean this in a nice way, you've got to create your own success, and the way you've done that is really wrap your kids into an off-season, year-round program about Hauser volleyball.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's really what it takes anymore. And you take what you can get, right? I don't want to tell them that it's mandatory, but I certainly encourage it. And we just need players playing to get better. And along with that, a lot of the area kids get into it.
It's great. I know we've got a couple kids from Southwestern that have been playing. I think Caleb Tennell, our varsity coach, comes over and is helping a couple of different teams. How many teams are you looking forward to in the 2020 summer season?
Well, hopefully we get to have summer league. Yeah. How many teams did we have last year? I think we had 22 or 23 teams in summer league last year. For Havoc this past season, we had 23, which was unbelievable, huge number.
So what's the earliest age a youngster can get involved with Havoc?
Well, we were in a camp. Actually, my granddaughter's 3 years old. She was going to camp. It was pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
So, Coach, when they say start him young, 3's old enough to start at least showing up and having some fun and being around the other kids that are having a great time playing volleyball with Havoc.
Yeah, and you hit it right on the head. I mean, it's about having fun. Volleyball's a fun sport, and if you get them having fun, they're going to be hooked.
Coach Case, you've got a Coach Case sitting there with you, Christian Case. Christian, thanks for joining us as well tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
So, what's your role with the guy there on your left? What exactly do you do for this guy year round, whether it's through Havoc or through the season?
Well, through the season, I basically anything I can. Mainly for him, it's take the dead ball stat during the game, enter the stats on max preps, just some other stuff that needs to get done. For me, it's try to be a sponge, absorb everything I can.
That's awesome.
I think a lot of people, if they're around a guy that's won that many sectionals, would just be fortunate enough to sit quietly and listen and take down mental notes, right?
Yeah.
But it's tricky for you, though, because he's your dad. So how does that change the dynamic of your guys' relationship away from volleyball?
really, it's hard to answer that because he's really the only coach that I've really known, really gotten to know and coached with. We really don't have a different relationship in the gym versus in the living room. I know at times we'll just be on a walk, bounce ideas off each other. It's kind of constant. That kind of stuff doesn't turn off.
An honor to be able to coach with my son. He's an awesome young man. I'm really proud of him. And I'd also say that I got Erica was my JV coach for a few years, and it's really neat to coach with her also. And she wants me to stick around to coach my granddaughter. And we'll just take it a year at a time and see what happens.
So she's 3. So let's see, 12 years from now, she'd be a freshman.
Right.
And so 12 years from now, let me get my math here real quick. In 17 years, you got almost 500, so 12 more. You'd be approaching, if your granddaughter can still hang it, you'd be approaching 1,000 wins when your granddaughter is a senior.
Sounds about right.
I can't even think about that.
That's scary, isn't it? That's really scary. That's fantastic, though, to think about 3 generations of Case family on the volleyball court at one time. That's and you mentioned that earlier when you talked about getting together at church outings, that you can have 3 generations of people there. So yourself, your son, your daughter, and your granddaughter all out at the same time wearing that Hauser Jets uniform. Season wraps up. You had some seniors this year graduate. Let's take a second and focus on some of those seniors that you guys had this year and the role they played in your program.
Yeah, well, I had Kylie Locke. She was a captain. She hit outside for me, played all the way around. She ended up being an Indiana All-Star, which is pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
I'm really proud of her. Shelby Fugate, she was a co-captain. She hit outside also. Melanie Taylor is my libero. Had Olivia Wright, played middle. And Mary Branham was DS.
That's incredible. So kudos to the seniors for winning 4 straight sectionals. In 2008, you guys are in 2A, and you guys come across a sectional championship game. And do you remember any of the details behind that 2008 sectional championship game?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That'd been such a goal of ours. I mean, it was like an obsession. It was actually easier for us to win a sectional in 2A than it was 1 at that time, because we were up against Morristown. And they had an amazing run themselves back then, a state title and a state runner-up. Rita Rouse was there, and I have so much respect for her as a coach. It was a lady, her husband Jeff, great people. But we were in 2A, and the semifinal that Saturday morning we played Lawrenceburg, and it was almost a 3-hour match. Wow. 3 of the games went overtime, and the biggest lead at the end was 2 points. So 3 points. It was. I mean, we had girls cramping up in the semifinal, and won that. It was an amazing match. Luckily, the finals wasn't as tough. We played Southwest Hanover in the finals. Pulled that off.
And so won your first.
Yeah, great feeling.
So that's you put all of the pieces in place by creating a feeder system and a program for kids to be successful in volleyball. And then in 2008, when the ball hits the ground, that's it. You've accomplished your goal as a coach and as a community founder with what you've done with Habit. How'd that feel?
Just an amazing feeling. It's something like the only time, I mean, winning a section was a big deal every time. It is a big deal. That first one was amazing. And then after that, the only feeling I had like that was winning semi-state.
I bet. I can imagine. I mean, it's a remarkable thing to put your nose to the grindstone, all those hours in the gym and all those kids and, all the coaching, tough coaching sometimes, right? On maybe telling the kid the truth when the kid doesn't want to hear the truth. But then you went on a remarkable run. I think you won your last 2A in 2010. And when was that? I mean, so really 09 is, do we need to talk about 09? What happened in 09 here, Jeff? You lost in 09.
That is an interesting story. We were expecting to play Lawrenceburg again. And we won, our morning match on Saturday, sectional Saturday. And Lawrenceburg played North Decatur. And North Decatur won. And we're sitting around, we swept North Decatur 2 weeks before. And we were having lunch, and everybody heard that, and they were just like, thought we already won. And we go in there, and North Decatur swept us. It was a pretty aggravating night.
So the lesson, though, that you get to coach kids about is what?
You can't take anybody for granted.
Yeah.
You got to show up and play your best. You're not the same team.
That's exactly right. It's exactly right. And so that lesson rang true, and I think you guys have won 10 straight sectional championships to this point. That's the decade of dominance that we see on your Twitter handle, right?
Yeah.
That's pretty fantastic. Pretty fantastic. A multitude of Mid-Hoosier-Conference Coach of the Year. I think you had an event in 2017. That's your state runner-up. So talk to us about that semi-state game in 2017.
Oh, that was just an amazing game. Played Bar Eve. We were at Columbus East. Packed house. It was so loud you couldn't hear. I was standing beside the court with players 5 feet from me, and they couldn't hear.
Wow.
So it was pretty intense. It went 5. Great match.
That's fantastic. You win that, and then you go up and have an opportunity to take your kids, because they play the state finals at Ball State, correct?
Yeah.
So you get to go up to the home of Lloyd Ball and the great Ball State program. How was that for your kids? How was the road trip, and what was that experience like for your kids?
Oh, that experience is just amazing. There's a lot more to it than I ever expected. Just that whole week, doing radio interviews, conference calls with ISHAA. There's a banquet on Friday night before, that is just super. It was just an amazing experience.
And so it's probably one of those tricky things where you're trying to manage the kids' emotion, yet manage your schedule also to make sure that the kids have still got school going.
Yeah.
They're traveling back and forth. You've by the way, your boss and your full-time job is probably, hey, if there's an opportunity for you to come to the shop once in a while, that'd be great too. But I think you spoke to the leniency and just understanding from an employer standpoint what you were doing for the kids at Hauser has got to be special for you as well.
Oh, absolutely. Really appreciate what they do. Kent Colglazer out of Plainfield is my boss, and his daughters play there at Plainfield. So they get him and his wife Stephanie. So
that's awesome.
They understand.
That's great. That's great. So you come up short in 17, and then I was reviewing some statistics from 19. You go to the regional championship game this last year. I think you're playing Bloomfield. It's 2-2. You go into the 5th set, and it looks like it's one of those typical volleyball matches that just doesn't ever want to end. I think it ends up being a 2-point game at the end. You guys are on the wrong side of a 3-set, 5-match game. I think it was 15-13. What do you remember about that 5th set?
I remember some calls I didn't like. It was just had some breaks that just didn't go our way.
Yeah.
Really proud of the girls, their effort they put in, and they just stepped up. Bloomfield stepped up at the time and they plays. So hats off to them.
In those 5th set games, it's Dave and I have been broadcasting volleyball games for about 2 years, and I've been around volleyball a little bit as well, and it seems like that 5-point hump and going to 25, if you can get to 5 up, that's about the lead that you can coast the rest of the way. I shouldn't say coast, but should hold barring anything crazy. But when you're going to 15, it's about 2.5, 3 points. It's any one serve really as dynamic as it is in a game that's short. Every serve matters.
Oh, absolutely. But at the same time, you got to be aggressive and put pressure on the other team. So it's a fine line to walk. I always look at it, we'll probably miss a couple serves, and the other team will probably miss a couple. And if you keep it at that, you're okay. Start giving away too many other points, you're really making it hard for yourself to win.
The trials and tribulations of not only building and sustaining a program, but those road games in the middle of your season where every team you are playing knows who you are, what you do well, and you're getting their best shot. How do you prepare every night your kids to take on the best shot a team can give you?
Oh, well, we communicate about it. We know, as coaches, definitely we know. We've got to get the girls to believe that. I think they do. You just really got to talk about it a lot because it's real, and you're going to get the team's best shot. So we've got to be ready. We've got to be focused, and really that's what you need to have postseason success. You've got to be mentally tough.
And so, really, what that does once you're communicating the need to make sure that you've got your A game every point. No points get taken off. No lack of focus in any one span. Because when it comes time for the postseason, when sectional time rolls around and the draw happens, again, you're getting everybody's best every night.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're exactly right. I mean, you have to value the ball and have ball control, value each point. It's just, you never know when you give up one silly mistake, 1 point, that could turn into 5. So,
and the snowball starts to happen, and somebody loses confidence, and the next thing you know, you can get behind and lose a game when you shouldn't. So.
Yep.
Coach Brunner was set to start his second season as varsity coach when COVID-19 ended his team's season in March of 2020. He's taking over a softball program renowned for their dominance in the Mid-Hoosier-Conference. Coach shares his vision for the future of Jets softball. So how did the three of you kind of culminate and get together? I know that, obviously you've got Matthew, I think you talked about, you got nieces, Andy's got kids, Gary's got kids. How do you guys as a relationship with coaches and your interactions and your communication to each other, how did you guys get together as the three of you?
That's an interesting story.
There's actually 3 that are missing right now. There's what, guys? There's a total of 6 of us. Well, and so our 16U coaches are a couple of guys that assist with the high school team as well. And then you got Mike, who his daughter is she will be one of the seniors this coming year, Mike Nading. And all these guys, Gary and Mike and Matt were all in place with Craig before. And then I brought Scott and Zach along with me when Craig resigned and I took over. So.
And it's pretty cool because, Mike and I, we've all been part of Hustle, right? So you got, like he said, Scott and Zach are 16s, and then Andy's got the younger girls. Mike and I aren't doing it so much anymore, but for a couple of years after Craig left, we were doing the 18Us. So, we've all been a part of Hustle. We've all been, doing what we can to come together and learn more about the game, more about how to handle, high school girls, because we've never been a high school girl. I don't know how to deal with that, right? I got 2 girls myself, and I still don't know any more than I used to know.
Fair point, Gary.
Yeah. So we've been learning all together, and then Andy said, or when Craig left, is an interesting story. I don't want to repeat what was already said, but Matt and I were with Andy and saying, man, you got to take over. It's got to be you. You've got the drive, you've got the passion by tons, you've got more than necessary, and you've got the chance and the opportunity, and these young girls look up to you. So we told him we'd hang around and help him out. So now we got this great big family, and like you said, there's 3 more of us that didn't even make the Zoom meeting. But I'll just say our coaches meetings are a good time.
I bet they are.
They are a good time. They're usually on Friday nights, but it's fantastic to have the bond, the group that we do. You know, I mean, when you break the girls apart, especially now, I mean, fair to say, we don't cut anybody. We never have that I'm aware of. Guys, correct me if I'm wrong.
Right.
But, you know, we had 17 on our roster this year. We had there was talk of another girl transferring in who had gone through private school in Columbus, coming in as a freshman. That didn't happen. And then there were three others that decided to do track or maybe just take a spring off. They were volleyball and basketball athletes already. And, you know, I mean, for some kids, 3 sports is normal. For some kids, it's not. Really, the goal at the beginning of the year this year was to be able to, with that big incoming freshman class, was to be able to have, you know, a JV program. No doubt about it, with the amount of kids that if everybody comes back, only losing 3 seniors, and I think we have 5 incoming freshmen next year. So, you know, now we're back up in the 19 to 20 number. Looks like that's and most certainly going to happen next year. So it's not to have all the coaches. It's great because you can break a coach off and work with pitchers and catchers. You can break a coach off and, you know, take 4 or 5 kids and run them through the cages while somebody's working infield and while somebody's working outfield. You can get a lot out of an hour and a half practice.
And you don't have kids standing around with their glove on their head. And how many seniors were you going to have? I know you talked about you had a transfer come in, but Coach Andy, how many seniors were you going to have this year?
We had Leah, Gary's daughter, and then we had Shelby Fugate, and then Katie Taylor, who had left to go to Columbus East the year before. Katie came back. Her younger sister is a freshman. And I mean, three solid players, both on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively.
And Shelby Fugate, correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean, she plays every single season there is at a very high level.
Yeah, she plays. She's a 3-sport varsity athlete for basketball, volleyball, and softball.
Yeah. And so Katie misses an opportunity, it sounds like, to be playing with her little sister on the diamond at the same time.
Yep.
They're both 2 phenomenal 2 athletes. I mean, they can just play.
Yep.
Wow.
And
They play high level travel ball. I mean, we were looking at some good things, some good opportunities with those girls.
How difficult is it? How difficult is it for you guys, Coach Andy, to I mean, it's an interesting thing, you know, the whole success breeds success. So when those kids see success on the diamond as 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds, when it comes time for tryouts and wanting to play softball, how do you guys cultivate that interest in 10-year-olds?
I learned a long time ago that you can't scare it into them. You can't make them do it out of fear. It's got to be their idea, and they got to want to do it. And you, as a coach, I know that a lot would probably disagree with me when I say this, but you got to be the first one there patting them on the back if you're going to be the first one there yelling at them when they do something wrong.
Coach, if I could just say a little bit more about that. I mean, my kid's a senior. She's a senior this year. She's been there since, man, I've coached her since 6U, right? She's been out there. And the thing that kills me about Hauser softball is these young girls look up to these older girls, and they see these older girls out there busting their tuchuses and having fun doing it. And like Andy says, you know, the coaches, the previous regime, I'd like to think this regime, supporting them, you know, on their side and really doing what it takes to build them up. It's built into the town or just the area. I mean, it's just continued to, I don't know, a snowball or if it's a fire that's just engulfed the area. But folks are really enjoying it, and the young kids see it, and they want to play, and that's pretty cool.
Matt, I saw you nodding your head along there. Do you agree with that 100%? I'm imagining.
I do agree with that 100%. I've been around the Hauser softball for a while now. I've had 2 nieces come up through Craig Sims's coaching, and Sean Lang is my brother-in-law. He helped Craig coach all those years. I literally haven't missed a Hauser game in 13 years. So Hauser softball game in 13 years. I was there when Hauser went to state and won state, and it just like Gary said, it's built into the town.
It's great. I'll tell you, we had a great discussion. When was it, Dave? Last week with Coach Case, and you know he said it a different way. The same thing a different way. He's like, look, if you don't make it fun and let the kids love it, the practices are hard, and when they do something wrong, we're going to let them know. But if you don't let them have a great time while they're doing it, and really to your point, Gary, that you said, you know, be there to celebrate every success they've got. There's a lot else that a kid can do or decide to do with their free time instead of, especially your catcher, don all the gear in a 90-degree weather and have dust all over them for 2 days in a row on a hot July Saturday when they could be at the lake.
You mentioned a pretty good problem too. I mean, Coach Case and Coach Andy here, we've got a catcher who loves to play both sports. You know, the kids in this town do enjoy both. I guess that's a good problem to have because they do enjoy both. They enjoy volleyball, they enjoy softball.
Well, and it gives them a break from the traditional one sport athlete, and they get a change. They get to adapt new skill sets. They get different hand-eye coordination by playing more sports. But the neat thing is, I go back to it. You know, it's you guys talked about, you know, kind of the way it is in Hauser and the way it is in Hope. Is that's just, you know, we go out, we have a really good time, and we win a lot of ball games.
It's like I said, you know, I go back to it. It's a culture. I mean, it's a culture that has been here long before I got here. It's a culture that's a privilege to be part of. It gets tough. I mean, there's a lot of days where silly mistakes are made and that kind of thing. And you just, you think about being more aggressive, more, you know, harder, tougher on them. But at the end of the day, they're 14 to 18-year-old kids. And the majority of them, you can see it in their face when they come off the field after every game. They've given you everything they've got.
Yeah, it's a great point. And so Dave and I would often talk about, you know, obviously it's a little different. You know, softball and volleyball are a little alike, and really failure is what gets you the win, right? So the other team's failure to get at bats or get hits and get runners across, move them. A kid's failure to field a ground ball successfully, make the throw, could cost you a game. And you know, at that point in time, we always talk about this with little girls playing basketball. If a little girl dribbles off her foot or double dribbles or travel, yelling at her about the travel or yelling at her about the double dribble, or in this point, yelling at her not to get her glove down or that she missed a ground ball doesn't help the kid. It's probably better to coach through the problem on, did you have your shoulders square to the ball? You know, when you made your throw, did you follow through? Because at the end of the day, your point, Andy, if those kids are out there giving it their all, you don't need to tell them how bad they made a mistake because they already know that, right?
Absolutely. I mean, guys, Gary and Matt will tell you, I mean, what do we run? 10, 12, maybe?
The same ones.
Maybe 15 different drills throughout the course of an entire season. And it's all about playing fundamentally sound, foundationally strong softball. Field a ball, throw a ball, catch a ball. And the same thing with the bats. And the girl, you know, it's a challenge because the girls get to the point where it's like, you will absolutely have your practices where they've had a rough week with school. They've, had a rough week, whatever the issue is, where they literally are just going through the motions, and it's frustrating. But at the same time, when you put different spins on it and that kind of thing, they spend more time, they spend more energy focusing on the different spins instead of the fact that, hey, look, this isn't tough. We are playing fundamentally sound ball. That's all we want you to do. And so to your point, when they make the mistakes on the diamond, and we have our little huddles as they come off the field, getting ready to get on the bats, and then to get on the bats to go, or get off the bats, to go back out on the field, you don't even have to bring it up. Yeah. They know what they did.
And probably the sooner as a coach that you can get that kid through the mistake time lapse and get the book in so it stops, because now we got to hit, right? Yep. Now we got to go out and field the ball again. I know you struck out again. Don't worry about it. What do we need from you right now? You need me to play good defense. You got it. You got it, Coach. I'll give it to you. It's good stuff.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Spartan Heads. Thanks to the Hauser Jets volleyball coach, Coach Case, and softball coach, Coach Andy Brunner, for spending some time with us as we talk Mid-Hoosier sports.
Spartan Heads, Dave and I are working on our final season episode where we'll show our top plays and including the #1 play in the history of Southwestern sports. Dave and I have a lot of video to review. So this season's Spartan Heads final episode will air on 7/27. That's right, July 27th. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Spartan Heads. And remember, if you need some sports to watch, check out Dart Media Group on YouTube. As always, we'd like to thank our sponsors, Flat Rock Ag, Larry Moore Construction, Kokomo Grain, and Flat Rock Precision. For Dave Blondell, our executive producer, I'm Kurt Carell. Thanks for tuning in to Spartan Heads.